Joining us today for this great webinar. We're going to be chatting all about cover crops today. It's going to be a great topic, which is super important for a lot of people around this time. I know for us, it is something that we are definitely looking at. Lots of different cover crops, lots of options, lots of benefits. And I wanted to make sure that I touch base on a lot of different topics. So, first of all, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. I would love to see in the chat where you guys are from. I am Carrie, first of all, and I am here in Zone 7 in Oklahoma City. So my husband Dale and I are the creators of the From Seed to Spoon mobile app. We started gardening ourselves in 2014? 15. There we go. And we quickly fell in love with it and we transformed our backyard from completely grass to a whole bunch of gardens and raised beds. We built a lot of wooden raised beds. We used a lot of smart pots, which are fabric raised beds that we absolutely love as well. And then along the way of doing this, we kind of realized that it was difficult and we were having to Google a lot of things and lug huge books out with us into the garden. And we thought, man, it would be super helpful if we had an app for that. So we looked and we couldn't really find anything that we really loved. So we made one ourselves. So the From Seed to Spin mobile app is available for download in the iOS and Android stores. And it'll help walk you through growing a whole bunch, like over 100 different fruits, vegetables, herbs, and it'll also give you exact planting dates based on your closest weather station. It'll pull in the estimated fall and spring frost dates. So that way it'll give you exact planting ranges, which is probably my favorite part of the app because I can never remember, first of all, when my planting dates are. But it makes it so simple. And there is a QR code right up here. If you guys don't have the app, make sure to download it now because it'll be super helpful for you. It not only gives you planting dates, but helps you with planting, planning friends and enemies, as well as pest management. And also organizing and things like that, lots of super helpful things in there. And we do have a giveaway too, because we have a premium version of the app. Most everything in the app is free, but we do have some premium features in there as well. And we are going to be giving away a 1-year premium membership for the From Seed to Spoon app after this webinar. So make sure that you guys are here live at the end and that you are communicating in the chat, and you will be entered to win into that giveaway. And I will announce the winner at the very end. So make sure you guys stay tuned. And again, I would love to see you guys in the chat. And I have helpers here too that are going to be popping up any questions that you guys have. So just feel free, if you guys have questions throughout, just pop them into the chat. And then my helpers will either respond in there or pop it up on the screen for me to talk about too. And if I don't get to your question throughout, we usually pop up questions at the end as well. So please come through and chat with us. And again, I would love to see where you guys are from. I see we have a few people. We have somebody from Utah and Louisiana. I am here in Oklahoma. So we have somebody from, I feel like both coasts already. That's great. Oh, and also up north too. We have Long Island as well. Great. And more people from Oklahoma. That's great. That's where I am. So thank you everybody for joining us. And please, if you guys have any questions, pop them into the chat and we will hopefully hit everybody's questions as we go through. Oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that the app has been super helpful. I definitely use it all the time as well myself. Okay, so we are going to dive in and talk about cover crops. We're going to touch on their like the benefits and which cover crops help with different benefits. So again, first of all, I do want to make sure that you guys stay tuned to the very end for the giveaway for the free 1-year premium app subscription, as well as some cover crop seeds. So make sure to stay tuned to the end, and I will announce the winner at the very end. So first of all, you may be asking, why do I need cover crops in my garden? And that is definitely something that we thought about whenever we first started. We're like, why would we even need cover crops, first of all? But there's so many benefits to having cover crops. So if you have your garden empty over the winter and you can't grow anything, I definitely recommend having some cover crops going. There is, so these cover crops are a whole bunch of different plants, which I'll get into, but it's just basically something that you would plant out in the winter time, leave them be, and they help with the soil in a bunch of different ways, as you can see. So there's a soil improvement. Sometimes they add nutrients into the soil. So there's certain plants that will help to boost your soil. So essentially giving it fertilizers, which is great over the winter time. So whenever you come back to it in the spring, you're ready to go, ready to plant. There's also, if you have any issues with erosion, there are cover crops that can help with that, as well as weed suppression. So a lot of the times if your beds are sitting bare, you don't want a whole bunch of weeds, seeds, and all of that blowing in and getting established, which can make your life a lot more hectic come the springtime when you have all of these different weeds popping up. So cover crops can really help with that as well. It can also help in different ways to help with biodiversity and habitat for lots of different beneficial insects, which are super important because they can help to fight off a lot of different pests that you may have. Especially things like ladybugs and there's like parasitic wasps and things like that this can really be beneficial for. So you want to make sure to have a habitat for them to be protected for over the winter time. And then also disease suppression too, by simply just rotating crops and growing different things. And there's also some certain plants that have things in their roots that can really help to make the diseases that you may have struggled with over the growing season. It might help to get rid of that. So definitely lots of great reasons to be planting cover crops. So these are just a few of my favorite types of cover crops, and ones that are also just super simple to grow as well. So different things like grasses will all be super helpful for lots of different reasons, which I'll get into. And then also root crops such as like radish and like turnips, things like that can really help to break up the soil as well. And then peas, of course, I'm sure you guys have all heard about the benefits of like peas and beans and things like that. And then clover, super great. And then some greens too, which are super hardy. So even if you guys are like up north and wanting to grow cover crops, so kale would be something that is super beneficial for you. Okay, so first I want to touch base with the first thing that I talked about earlier. So the soil improvement of the nutrient side. So if you know that you are lacking in certain nutrients, so if you've done a soil test and you've seen like where specifically you're lacking or anything like that, you may want to plant certain ones. But I always go with something too. If you don't know, I always go with something with nitrogen because it's super helpful for all of your plants around. It'll help all of your heavy feeders that you are going to be planting come like spring and summertime. So a lot of these are going to be new nitrogen helpers. So they'll help to pull them. So clovers and peas will be helpful there, and fava beans, and then different things too. So even if you're in the South, you can do like some black-eyed peas as well. Um, Definitely not something that you can do really up north because they won't grow super well. But if you are down in the South, the black-eyed peas would be a good option. And then up north, peas would be great. And then, of course, these grasses, so like the buckwheat and rye, will help to add certain different types of nutrients as well. And then erosion control too. Lots of different things can help with that. So you're looking at things that have a big root structure, or they have, again, like the root crops. So things like that can help to break up that soil and help like just establish themselves. So that way, and also like grow dense and make it so you don't have lots of erosion. So the grasses, root crops, sunflowers, even, they have a real dense root system too. And then any sort of legumes. So that's the peas, beans, and even clover is considered a legume as well. So all of those will really help to have a strong root base to help prevent any sort of erosion control and losing of your soil, because it can be it can be a hassle over the winter too, especially if you have bare dirt or soil. You're going to be battling losing a lot, especially if you have any like windy conditions and things like that. So you want to have something up top and like roots down below too. And then weed suppression is going to be another one here. We have clover, so more of those legumes again. And then radish, again, with the underneath of the soil. And then mustard. And then I can't even pronounce some of these, but the flowers. So, and then all of the grasses, the rye and wheat, all of those are going to help with the weed suppression. So again, just having plants there are going to be helping with preventing any sort of other weeds to come in, the seeds to come in and get established for you. So having just anything planted up top, or just having a lot of the previous plants too that you had growing too will help to prevent any sort of weeds from establishing themselves. So biodiversity and habitat. So this is really important for those plants that, for those beneficial insects that you want to have in your garden for sure, because they will help manage a lot of your pests for you. So that way you don't have to, which is super helpful. And definitely something you want to do. So pretty much anything that is flowering. So clover is actually a really good one to help to give all of those beneficial insects some sort of habitat to overwinter in. So any sort of clover, sunflowers can help to draw them in and attract them into that area, because of course sunflowers are amazing. And then any sort of brassicas such as kale, and then like buckwheats, those are going to be super helpful too, just to prevent or just to have some ground cover and places for them to go and hide and stay warm, like just to have themselves there over the winter. It'll help with all of your beneficials. And then disease suppression. So marigolds, I know, are definitely not something that you can plant in the winter unless you are in the South. But if you do have like an empty bed over the summertime or over the springtime, marigolds would be a really good option to put in. So if you have any sort of empty thing or empty pot, any empty container, empty ground area, while you are planting out your summer crops or anything like that, marigolds will be a really great option for you because they can help in their roots to get rid of the harmful nematodes. Um, and they're super helpful with a lot of different things. So marigolds are always one of my go-tos for the spring and summertime. And if you're in the South, you could probably plant some marigolds now too, if you're far south at least. I know I can't grow marigolds right now, but come spring and summertime, I definitely will be planting lots of marigolds. And then also things like the oats and barley will help too with just giving like organic matter into the soil and help to just rotating around your crops is going to be one of the biggest things for disease suppression too. And things like brassicas, especially mustard, is super helpful for disease suppression. So mustard is a terrific cover crop, and that's a great cool weather one. So if you're looking for something to help with diseases over the winter time, highly recommend mustard. And then again with the legumes, so peas and clovers, things like that are going to be really helpful. So let's talk a little bit about how and when to plant cover crops. So first of all, the benefits of planting cover crops are going to be whenever you plant super dense. So especially for things like erosion control and also for weed suppressions, things like that. So whenever we go out and plant our cover crops, we pretty much just go out there and sprinkle seeds. There's no like rhyme or reason. We're not like planting it in rows or spacing them out, in square foot gardening method. We are just growing out there, planting, tossing seeds everywhere, and just whatever grows is kind of how we go about planting our cover crops. So it's just super low key and it's super simple. Just go out there, toss some seeds, right? The best time to plant cover crops is going to be in the fall, obviously. So right now for us, it is going to be a little late for several of these that we talked about, but there are definitely some that we could still even plant. So things like radish, we could probably still stick in, and then things like rye, peas, depending on how the weather is, you can still plant a lot of those things. And especially if you guys have mild winters or are down in the South area, it's definitely not too late. So if you have mild winters, you can plant in the late fall, early winter even, and you can have a round of cover crops in. So essentially what you want to do is just make sure that your beds aren't bare. So whenever your plants start, you just want to make sure that you don't have empty soil beds for the winter time, because you don't want to have any of these issues that we talked about. And cover crops are definitely the way to go about helping to prevent a lot of those issues. So planting them as soon as you have space empty in your garden beds is a really good method. But really, like anytime you can go out there and just give it a try and see if you can get them to germinate and go. Okay, so I wanted to touch super quick on all of those benefits of cover crops and see if you guys had any questions as well. So if you guys have any questions, please pop them into the chat for me, and we will go through and answer a few questions too now. But I also want to mention too that we have GrowBot as well in the From Seed to Spoon app. There in the bottom corner, you'll notice a GrowBot icon, and you can go in there and ask GrowBot, which is our AI chat. You can ask it any gardening questions that you may have, and it'll give you really great answers. I use it a lot just asking like certain things or describing like a pest that I see or an issue that I see in the garden on a plant that might be like a certain disease or something like that. Um, I just go through and I describe it and I'm like, okay, what could be going on? And it'll give you advice and all of that. We also have a standalone Growbot app through Park Seed. So if you go to the Apple App Store and search for Growbot, you will find the Growbot app, which will do the same thing for you. So it'll go through and answer any and all of your garden questions. Okay, do we have any questions? Okay, so barley. I wonder how much it takes to grow enough to brew beer. So that is an interesting question. I actually do not know that, but that's a great question to ask Growbot because I bet Growbot would give a pretty good answer for that. But that's not something that I know off the top of my head. I am sorry, but that is funny. I wonder too.
I asked Robot
Oh, okay.
in the chat.
We asked Growbot. Okay. Growbot says for a 5-gallon homebrew batch, which is common for homebrewing, you would need about 3 to 5 pounds of malted barley. So I wonder how many plants that is. That's interesting.
About a bushel.
About a bushel.
I don't speak in bushels. I don't know.
Yeah.
We did our best. Talk to Growbot.
Yeah, Harry, I'd recommend you chat with Growbot and see if Growbot can give you some good advice on growing barley as a cover crop. Okay. Mac would like to know, let's see. Oh, he says he wish he would stay, but he has to go back to work. But okay, question. Why does my spinach grow big? So there's different varieties of spinach. There's small leaf, like they have like baby leaf spinach, and then there's also like the larger leaf ones. I would definitely just give a different variety a try if you wanted it to be smaller. I definitely love the smaller spinach. I like the baby leaf ones, and there's a lot of different lots of different varieties of spinach. So if you go into the app and you go into spinach, there's a types section that shows you all the different varieties and all of that are available through Park Seed. And they will go through and show you, like it'll describe it for you and how long it takes to harvest and all of that. Okay, just curious. Can you use the fabric cloth to cover the beds for winter? Yeah, absolutely. If you are only worried about like erosion, like losing soil from the wind or things like that, you definitely could just lay down like a tarp or fabric cloth or something like that. But I mean, you won't get the benefits of like the nutrients or the organic matter, things like that for like come springtime. But it'll still help with losing soil. So you definitely won't do that. Okay, Harry is fighting grass growing into raised beds from underneath. Oh, yes, that is a huge struggle for a lot of us. I know with us, if you were here in the beginning, Harry, and you saw those pictures of our backyard that we had whenever we first started growing, it was complete Bermuda grass from the beginning. And then we transformed it over a couple years. Yeah, as you can see here. So that was all solid Bermuda. And then we transformed it into this. So we were constantly fighting grass, but we found a great tried and true method of laying down cardboard. So what we did was we laid down at least one layer of cardboard. Sometimes we did 2 layers if we had enough cardboard. And then put a lot of wood chips on top. So we did anywhere from like 6 inches to a foot of wood chips, honestly. Like, and we were getting the wood chips for free too, from our local compost facility. So I would definitely look into that. So if you have a local compost facility, see if they supply wood chips as well. And that's where we were getting a lot of our wood chips whenever we went through. And this way, you help to stifle out those grasses, and that way you won't be battling them. So, really, that's the best way to go about stifling out the grass and making sure that it doesn't come back again and again and again. Because I know with us, like the Bermuda, especially, if you leave just a little piece in there, it'll just keep growing. So, let's see. I typically let the grass just grow over my garden come fall. Is that okay? So it depends what grass you have. So if you have Bermuda, I'd say definitely not. Again, because of the roots. Like if you leave any of the Bermuda roots in there, it's going to keep coming back. So you're going to be battling Bermuda in your gardens for a very long time. Some other grasses will be okay. I would just make sure it doesn't go to seed if it's another grass, and that should be fine. But you just don't want to be having it go to seed and then having to battle the grass seeds in there come spring. But as long as it doesn't do that, you'll be good. Okay, so this is a great question. So Jill wants to know, I'm wondering if you chop and drop cover crops or let them go. So I do a lot of different things. So it depends on what it is. We can either go through and compost them, or you can chop and drop them. So I do a lot of that. So we just go through and just mix it in too, and it adds a lot of organic matter back into the soil. Okay, so what do you do with cover crops come spring? So again, yeah, that so very similar to the last question. Again, um, I pretty much just go through and I chop them and try and mix them into the top part of the soil a little bit, just to add some organic matter into there. Um, we live in the country now, so we go and sometimes let our chickens into there, and our chickens go through and eat, and um, they will go through and help to fertilize the gardens as well. So it's super helpful in two ways. We provide food for them, and they provide some fertilizers and clean out the beds too. And okay, so what about rabbits? Will they eat the cover crops? Yeah. So if you have or if you're talking about pet rabbits, I definitely, absolutely. So we in one area of our places that we were growing cover crops. Whenever we were done, we moved our little bunny cage over top of that space and let her just go to town and eat all of that. Because I think we had turnips growing right there or something like that. So we let her just go through and munch on the top part of the turnips, and then and she was providing fertilizer too, because rabbit poop is the best fertilizer for your garden. And it's great too because you can do rabbits no matter where you live. Like in the city, we had rabbits whenever we were living in a regular neighborhood, and it works out great. Oh, this is the question we just had, right?
Different animal.
Okay, so we have 2 acres and a cow. What cover crop would be best to kill 2 birds with 1 stone? Okay, so you want to feed the cow as well, I'm guessing, and help to boost up your soil. So things like any of those grasses too that we talked about, like the rye grasses, oats, barley, alfalfa would be great. Doing things like clover, would be helpful too. Things like that would definitely be things that I would look into growing. Even things like peas too, you could do, and the cow would probably like. Is there anything you can plant to help kill grub worms? Um, well, I will say honestly, I don't think there's anything that you can plant to kill grub worms, but right now is actually the perfect time to lay down milky spore if you are looking for a remedy for grub worms. And so milky spore is just a naturally occurring what is it? No, yeah. So milky spore, I know it's naturally occurring, so it's considered organic. You just lay it down onto the soil where you're having issues.
Bacteria.
Yeah, okay. It's a bacteria that you can lay down. But it's naturally occurring. It only will hurt those grub worms. So and now in the fall time is the best time to go about planting it. Okay, great. So there's a link for it right there. I think they posted it in the chat as well. But yeah, that milky spore powder will really help with grubs, and now is the time to do it. But I don't know about any plants that you can plant to help with that. I wish that'd be great. Okay, so my goal is to learn more about identifying pests. Can the app help identify pests? So we do have a pest spot where there are different images of all of the different pests that are common in our garden. So there's a bunch of different pictures in there that you can link to. But coming soon to our app, we will be doing an identifier. So if you like have a pest, you can like snap a picture of it or something like that and send it in, and it'll help identify it for you. So that's coming soon. But you can go through and either look at the pictures on the pest section for right now, or you can go into Growbot too and describe what pests that you're seeing. So like I've done this before. So I just describe what it is that I see in the garden, and I ask Growbot, what could this pest be on this plant? And it usually gives me a pretty good answer. And then I can go through and be like, yes, that is the one. So that's kind of what I do right now. Okay. Can I use a cultivator to chop and crop in spring, or do I need to use a shovel? When should I do it? So the cultivator can destroy the structure and kill the helpful stuff too. So I typically would just go through and either do it by hand, because that'll be the best way to go about making sure that everything's good. Okay. Do we want to go ahead? We're a little past 12:30. We'll go ahead and announce the winner for our giveaway. So again, we were giving away a free 1-year premium app subscription for the From Seed to Spoon app and some cover crop seeds too. And don't worry if you don't win this time. We do these every couple weeks, so we'll be having more giveaways too. So congratulations to Harry Warp. Congratulations. So email us at info@seedtospoon.net and we will get you all set up on your app subscription. And we'll get your address to ship you some cover crop seeds as well. So great. And like I said, we do these webinars every 2 weeks. So make sure to stay tuned. Our next one is going to be, I think it's November 15th. And it's going to be all about propagating herbs. So that's what we're going to be talking about then. So make sure to stay tuned for that. And if you aren't already, make sure you follow us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, all of those. We always post out a bunch of reminders as well. And we post lots of different fun shorts, things that I'm doing out in the garden right now. So answer any questions and things like that. So make sure you guys are following us at Seed to Spoon. Okay. Well, did we have any last minute questions to pop in before we let them go? Or we do. Okay. Oh, Harry is in Southern California. He's frustrated because planting dates are based off frost dates and don't have frost. Yeah, that can definitely be difficult. But hey, I'm happy for you because you can plant year round. That's amazing for me. Yeah, personally, like I always just go through and look at the app whenever I'm trying to plant out anything, and hopefully the app works really well for you too. Whenever you go through and want to know when to plant something, you can go through and see what the app tells you to do in your location, because it'll give you planting dates too based on wherever it is that you guys live. Okay. Does the milky spore help with a grasshopper problem? No, milky spore is just going to be for the grubs. Grasshoppers are a total different problem on their own. They are a nightmare to deal with. I will say that. But I will say our chickens help a lot, but I know not everybody can do grass or chickens in their garden area. I do have a webinar where I went through each pest and talked about different organic methods and things like that. So definitely check that out. It was one of our past webinars. I don't know the date, but it was a few months back. So if you look at our YouTube channel, just at From Seed to Spoon, you will find a list of all of our different webinars that we've done. And we did a pest management one. And I talk all about grasshoppers in there too. Okay, Lisa says, I usually compost in place. Any plants I shouldn't do that with? Well, if there's any sort of like invasive plants or plants that you have a really hard time like managing, so like that spread really easily, I would definitely be careful with that because you can be battling that a lot. Or if there's things that have gone to seed, you want to be really careful too, because if you let things go to seed, then they're going to be continually coming back. So whenever, like we're talking about these cover crops, you do want to make sure that you go through and chop them before they go to seed. Also, anything that is like diseased, I wouldn't do that with. So if you have any diseased plants, I would take them out and like just put them in the trash, like get rid of them, because you don't want to be spreading diseases or anything like that. So yeah, I mean, specifically like plants like violets, we've had a lot of issues with, like just like like the violet flowers and plants, like, oh man, they come everywhere. And then the comfrey is also one that just grows and grows for us, which is great. And they're amazing for like the soil, but we definitely always have comfrey coming up somewhere. So those are different specific ones that I might want to watch out for. Max says, my spinach doesn't grow big. What is wrong? So, I mean, again, it's probably, I mean, it could be the variety that you're growing, because there are certain different varieties that grow bigger than others. But possibly you just need more nitrogen in the soil. So we did have that section earlier about the different nitrogen boosting plants. So I might take a look at one of those and see if you can help to boost the nitrogen around that area. Or you can always do like fish fertilizers and things like that too to help in that area. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. I am so glad that you all were able to join us. And if you guys have any more questions, please feel free to leave them in the chat or ask Robot. Hop in there and ask Robot any of your questions that you might have. And we're going to be hosting another one of these here in 2 weeks, November 15th, talking all about propagating different herbs. And I'm going to show you all how I do it. And we're going to do it actually together on air while we're doing that. And then once we hit January, I'm going to start going back to doing these once a week. So I'm going to be talking all about the different things that I'm going to be doing in my garden as I'm doing them. So we'll be having lots and lots of different webinars and events coming up. So make sure that you guys are following us. And I look forward to seeing you all again then. Thank you all for watching. Bye.